Welcome back to the embedded system session. So in this class, we'll try to cover about the 8051 pin diagram and some of the addressing modes of 8051. So in first unit, we have the introduction to 8051. So in the introduction to 8051, we have to end up our session with introduction to the pin diagram of 8051. So before that, we have covered some of the important registers which are there in 8051 in the last class. So what is most important is for 8051 for programming with 8051 provided in unit number 2, we should understand certain registers which are going to be programmable registers or which can be accessed by using a programming instructions known as accumulator, temporary register B, program status word, stack pointer register, program counter, and data pointer register. And this data pointer register usually 16-bit register which we'll be having. Okay, and all these we have discussed that they will be used in the assembly instructions to program a microcontroller. Then apart from that, there are some other registers used here in the programming called as temporary registers called as R0, R1, R2, R3, so on up to R7. A and B registers where A is known as accumulator and PC is a program counter and DPTR is a data pointer register. So it is subdivided into once again lower order and higher order data pointer registers. So this much we have discussed in the previous class. And today's class we'll try to go with the 8051 microcontroller pin diagram. Okay. Now this 8051 is basically a 40 pin IC. So it is going to be a 40 pin IC. Among these 40 pin IC, what we discussed in the previous class as 32 pins have been used by the ports. So this is, we have 4 ports as P0, P1, P2 and P3 are the 4 ports we have. So each port is going to take around 8 bits. So 8 into 4, it is going to be 32. So 32 pins have been reserved only for ports. Now among 40, 32 is reserved means what? Only 8 pins are rest over now. Among these 8 pins, you're going to have VCC pin and the ground pin. So VCC is the power supply. The power supply to the entire chip is applied through the VCC, and ground is anyway to the entire chip is now normally grounded by using the ground terminal. So 8 minus 2 is going to be 6 pins are left over now. Now among these 6 pins, one will go for reset. Reset is very important pin. So because whenever we want to restart the 8051 microcontroller, you have to simply press this particular reset pin. So once you reset, all the temporary content stored in the registers are simply going to get erased and your 8051 will be reinitialized for a new program to execute. Therefore, reset is a very important pin for us. So reset one pin will be used. That means it is going to be 8 minus 2, 6, 6 minus 1, that is going to be 5. 5 pins are left over. And after this, 2 pins are used for crystal oscillator. So 5 minus 2, 3 pins are left over. These 3 pins are used here as something like EA bar, ALE, PSEN pins. So that means you have to remember, put together these 3 pins only. Because for every chip, VCC is common, ground is common. Crystal terminals will be there too, that will be common. Because using the crystal pin input, we apply the clock signal to the 8051 microcontroller. What is the use of crystal inputs? Using crystal inputs, we apply clock signal to the microcontroller system. So clock signal, using the clock signal, we normally going to operate the 8051 microcontroller. So 8051 microcontroller is normally going to be operated with respect to the clock signal frequency. That means the speed of the 8051 purely depends on the clock signal frequency and the ALE size. Okay. So and the ALU size. Okay. So therefore, in the ALU we're going to have this primary register is going to be accumulator. So it is based on the uh, accumulator size. We normally going to have the speed of the operation. So speed of operation purely depends on the external clock signal and also the size of the accumulator. So these are the basic things which we have. Then what are the leftover pins we have? EA bar, ALE and PSEN. So you should strictly remember these three pins compulsorily, because all the rest will be coming automatically because of the number of ports. So it is a 4-port device. So each port is going to occupy 8 pins. So 8 into 4, 32. 32 is reserved for the port pins only. So we left over with only 8 pins. Among 8 pins, VCC, ground and reset anyway has to be there. So 8 minus 3, 5. 2 pins will go for the crystal clock signals, crystal oscillator for clock signals. 2 pins will be given for the crystal oscillator for clock signal, and we left over with only 3 pins called EA bar pin. Okay, so EA bar is enable address pins, enable external enable address pins. ALE is address latch enable pin, and program status enable pin. So this EA bar is normally used whenever we wanted to connect an external peripherals to the microcontroller. We use this pin. ALE is nothing but address latch enable. It is basically used for multiplexed address and data pins. And PSN is nothing but the program strobe enable pin. So whenever we want to, program the external peripheral devices, we normally use this PSN type of the pins. So these are the 40 pin IC, which we can write it directly by using all these various representations. So therefore, the remembering pin diagram is going to be very easy as far as this 8051 microcontroller is concerned. Okay, so let us start with port 0 representations. So port 0 has got 8 pins. So port 0, P0.0, P0.1, P0.2, P0.3, so on up to P0.7. So it says that this is going to be the 0th pin of port 0. This is going to be first pin of port 0, second pin of port 0, so on up to 7th pin of port 0. And this P0 port is basically a multiplexed address and data bus ports. So address lines and data lines are simply multiplexed using in this particular port. That means here you can place data as well as address, lower order address lines and data lines onto this particular pin, which has been controlled by the ALE pin. The next, the higher order address lines of the memory are identified by using port 2. For port 0, for port 2.0, port 2.1, port 2.2, like this, so on up to port 2.7. So A8 to A15. So put together, how many address pins you're going to have? A0 to A7 are reserved for port 0, and A8 to A15 reserved in the port 2. Therefore, you can have a 16 address lines and you're going to have 8 data lines. So that means 2 power 16, around 64 kilobytes of minimum 64. That means around you can access around 64 kilobytes of memory using this particular 8051 microcontroller. Next, port 1 is going to be used for bidirectional bus. You can use it for both input as well as output data transfers. And next port is going to be port 3. If you see this port 3 is normally is reserved for special functions or to provide some extra functions to the chip. What are the extra functions that we normally going to have? We have to perform serial communication. That means serially you want to transmit data into the output device, or you want to receive data from the output device into the microcontroller. So that can be achieved by using the transmit data pin TXD. Receive data pin is nothing but using this RXD pin. Data will be simply received by the 8051 using the serial port into the device. And transmit means what? The microcontroller is going to transmit its data onto the external device using a serial communications. Then next it has got two interrupt requests, that is called INT0 bar, INT1 bar. Using these interrupts is going to handle the two external interrupt signals. And it is going to have signals for timers, timer 0 and timer 1. It has got two timers. So two instructions, that means timer 0 can be enabled, timer 1 can be utilized from the external peripherals, utilized by external peripherals by using T0, T1 pins. And here you want to write some data or read some data into the memory. So writing and reading data in and out of the memory can be done by using these particular pins, WR bar and RD bar pins. Now what is most important is you cannot interchange P3.3 pin with a RD bar signal or P3.6 with a INT1 signal. Every pin is going to have its own intended operations because it is totally a hard coded pins. So whenever you have a hard coded pins, they are not customized pins. Means what? Every pin will be performing its own task. You cannot really change the task of one pin to another pin. So therefore, you should be very careful about writing, mapping this pin numbers with appropriate special functions of this port number 3 pins. So if you could not remember this mapping, P3.0 for RxD, say P3.3 for interrupt one signal, say P3.6 for WR bar, like that, all these pins if you could not remember. So what at the most you can do is you can remember these operations. You can remember the operations such as what now, receiving data, transmitting data. You can remember two interrupt signals. You can remember INT bar, INT 0 bar, INT 1 bar. You can remember, and timer instructions. You can remember T0 and T1, and you can remember this RD bar, WA bar very easily. So by doing so, by skipping this P3.0, 3.1, 3.2, you can even mention these particular things and say that all these particular special functions can be done by using port 3. So thereby you can simply write the list of various extra operations provided by the port 3. So port 3 is especially used for these operations. Okay, for input output we use port 0, and for transferring data, parallel data from 8051 into the external device, we use port 0. And port 2 is, as you mentioned here, it is normally used to have the higher order address lines. So these are the various pins which we have on the 8051 microcontroller, and it is basically a dual inline 40 pin IC. So as I said earlier, that port 1, using port 1 you can read a bit or you can write a bit. So that means you can read a bit from the external sources into the microcontroller. Using port 1 you can write a bit into the external devices connected to the microcontroller. So we'll try to verify that by using this particular basic uh, you know port 1 pin mapping diagram. Okay. So this is what internal CPU bus lines are normally connected by using a D flip-flop. These two are tri-state buffers. So using these tri-state buffers, we normally going to control the flow of signal in and out of the microcontroller systems. And let us suppose we want to write and read data into the microcontroller microprocessor, and we'll try to figure out that particular operations now. See, writing one to output port to output pin P1. So I want to write some letter 1, writing 1 to the output pin. That means here I want to place 1. So how do I place 1 here? In order to place 1 in the output lines, what has to be done here? That is what very important for us. So if at all, this is a transistor, this is a CMOS transistor. This CMOS transistor will be turning this, this you can understand by using VLSI operation. Is going to be, it's going to be a basic transistor configuration in the VLSI technology, which is known as the CMOS configuration. And this is known as the NMOS transistor. Right. So this NMOS transistor will turn into on when the input to this is 1. It turns into off when the input is going to be 0. NMOS transistor turns into on when the input is 1. NMOS transistor turns into off condition when the input is 0. Exactly reverse is going to be true for the PMOS type of the transistor. Okay. So if this transistor is in the off condition, what will happen? This VCC is simply connected to the output load. So therefore the maximum VCC is nothing but 1 for us. So that means this one is connected to the output port. Okay. So in order to have this thing, what we have to have now compulsorily, you have to write a 1 to the pin. This pin you have to write 1. So to the D flip-flop input, we give 1. If D flip-flop, what is D flip-flop? It is known as delay flip-flop. Whatever we give as the input, same thing is simply propagated to the output Q. So 1 is given here, 1 will be coming as the output over here. So if this particular read latch is enabled, this 1 is simply transmitted to the external device like this, and this 1 can be really read from this particular latch, from the D latch. So for example, this read latch is disabled. If this is disabled, this 1 is not read. It is normally used for writing here data into this. Now once this is 1, because of the operation of the flip-flop, the two outputs are going to be complements of each other. If this is 1, this would be definitely 0. So as this is 0, as it is the Q bar is 0, the transistor M1 simply turns into off condition. Once it is in the off condition, there is no path for the current to flow. Therefore, this VCC is simply connected to this particular point. So max VCC is nothing but something like 1, writing 1. So this 1 is simply placed onto the port P1.X. This X is going to take values from 0 to 7. So any pin to any pin you can simply transfer 1. So this is how we normally going to perform the operation of writing 1 onto the uh, output pin P1.X. Similarly, I'll go with writing 0. We have written 1 and we are going to write write 0. So we want to write 0, writing 1. This is writing 0 we have to have. Yeah. So I want to write 0 onto the output pin. To write 0, we normally going to apply 0 to the D flip-flop. Once it is 0, it will becomes the output becomes 0 because it is delay flip-flop. Whatever we give as the input, same thing will be populated to the output with the same value after some delay. So output is 0. Once Q is 0, Q bar complement of this is nothing but 1. This is 1. Once this is on, this transistor turns into on condition. Once the transistor is in the on condition, this transistor is going to allow maximum current to flow through it, and it is connected to the ground. So this point is connected with this point in ground, obviously. So therefore, what is the voltage across transistor? It is 0 because voltage across short. We replace transistor by short once it is in the on condition. So voltage across short is 0. So that means 0 is written onto the pin P1.X. So this is how the operation of writing 1 and operation of writing 0 onto the pin. Similarly, you can read data. You can read data from the pin number P1.X. So I want to read, say, I want to read high value from pin P1.X. Imagine that pin P1.X is having value 1. I want to read that into the microcontroller. To read that value, what should happen? Compulsorily, the transistor should be disabled. For a transistor to be disabled, what I should do now? I would apply 1 to the D flip-flop and this will be disabled. So apply 1 to this for reading. And next, what should I do? This read pin, this is a control signal for read pin, read buffer. This should be simply enabled to 1. So if this is enabled to 1, this buffer is normally going to get enabled. So whatever the 1 is coming, this 1 is simply getting applied, getting given to the internal to the CPU. It simply goes into the CPU like this. This arrow has been shown here, red marked arrow. It is simply going into the CPU. Okay. So like this, we normally going to read 1 from the input port. Okay. Similarly, I can read 0 from the input port. So for reading 0 from the input port, what should I do? Reading 0 or low. That means same operations I normally going to do. 0 is there, but rest of the circuit configuration is going to be same. We place 1 to here at D flip-flop, D input, and because this is 1, this is 0, the transistor will be in the off condition, and 0 is normally going to get transmitted to the internal to the CPU. Okay. So this is how the operations which you can perform on the pin configurations. So this is what regarding unit number 1. So which will be containing up to the pin diagram of the 8051 microcontroller. And we discussed that 8051 is going to have two timers, it is going to have two counters, and it will be having one serial port, right? And it is having seven interrupt signals. Next, addressing modes. So addressing modes are normally required to write a program using the microcontroller systems. So therefore, now from this particular topic onwards, we are going to start unit number 2. So in unit number 2, we start with addressing modes. So why we normally use addressing modes? Addressing modes are normally normally use it to access the memory locations for doing the operations using the microcontroller. So a microcontroller is normally going to perform operations based on the data. Now, how do we access data? We access data using the various types of the addressing modes. So in today's session, we'll try to go up to half of the addressing modes. So we have various addressing modes like register addressing mode, direct addressing mode, indirect addressing mode, immediate addressing mode, index addressing mode. So these modes like register, direct, indirect, immediate, indexed. All these addressing modes, these five addressing modes are already there in the 8086 microprocessor or 8085 microprocessor. So these addressing modes are already dealt in the 8086 microprocessor. So same kind of a concept is been incorporated in the case of the 8051 microcontroller as well as the addressing modes. So using these addressing modes, we normally going to accessing data for a microcontroller to process. So for a microcontroller to process, it needs data. Now, how do we get data? By using the addressing modes, we normally going to get data into the microcontroller. Let us see how we normally going to use this addressing modes. So we'll try to cover first four at least, say register, direct, indirect, and immediate addressing modes in this session. Register means what? The two operands are going to be the registers here in the case of the register addressing modes. So 8051 access to 8 working registers known as R0 to R7. You can use it here R0 to R7 any register. So instructions using register addressing are encoded using 3 least significant bits of the instruction opcode to specify a register. So if we use, we need not bother about all these nomenclatures. We just understand by seeing the instructions only. And instructions, what is so important is operands. See, if you see this instruction called add, add, operands A comma R7. A is known as the accumulator register, which is of 8 bit. R7 is the register. R7 is the register. Okay. Now here A is a register, R7 is a register. So both of them are the registers. Add is nothing but the opcode. So opcode is similar to something like a function in the C language. So for a function to implement, what is important? It is going to take the parameters and it performs the operations, and that value is assigned to a variable which will be given at the left hand side. Say something like say some integer C is equal to sum of 1 comma 2 will give. What is this sum of 1 comma will do? It is going to simply add up this 1 and 2. Result is simply assigned to the variable C. So similar kind of thing is used here, but only thing is that return is equal to something is not given here, because the assigned value will be implicit into the resultant value assigned to accumulator is implicit in this particular instruction. Therefore, this add is known as the name of the function or name of the opcode, and A and R7 are the operands to this particular opcode or parameters to this particular opcode in general. So if you use only registers here, it is known as the register addressing mode. So using this register addressing mode, it is going to access the data into the accumulate. Okay. So this is what we normally going to have in the case of the register addressing mode. So we use only directly registers. Then other examples what we can have is increment DPTR. So DPTR register is incremented by 1. Okay, is known as INC instruction. Then multiply AB. It's a 1 byte instruction multiplying unsaid values in accumulator and register B. So this AB means what? It is going to multiply the unsigned values of accumulator with the contents of register B, and result is stored in the accumulator. So this is what the instruction to multiply the contents of A and B. And next addressing mode is going to be the direct addressing mode. So here in this case, the direct addressing mode, in direct addressing mode, we normally going to provide directly the address on chip memory location directly we're going to mention here. That means add A comma 55 means what? This 55 is nothing but address location. Okay. So that means the contents which are there, that means this address locations, this address location which is there in 55, this is directly been added to A. That means this addition instruction is using the 55 direct addressing memory location with A. And similarly, A P1 comma A means what? Here the contents of A are simply transferred to the port 1. The default address of port 1 is going to be 90H. So it is something like we are mentioning P1 means we are mentioning 90H. Means what? It is simply, this data will be simply going into the address pointed by the port 1 address. So this is what we can normally going to give it here. It's called direct addressing mode. So another addressing mode is going to be indirect addressing mode. In the indirect addressing mode is normally designated by using @ operator. So we write move A comma @ or not. So @ means what? It moves a byte of data from internal RAM at location whose address is in R0 to the accumulator. That means R0 contains the address, and in that address in the RAM area there is some data of 8-bit. So if you use @ operator, it simply brings out value at the address is normally going to get brought. So value at the address contained in R0 is simply brought into the register A. This is the meaning of this. So the meaning of this @ is nothing but value at address operator. It is something like a star operator used in the C programming language of pointers. Exactly similar kind of thing is used in microcontroller using the @ operator. So if you use @ operator, what does it mean? It simply brings out the value at the address, that address contained in R0 into the, this instruction is moved into the accumulator. So that value is simply brought into the accumulator. That is what the meaning of this @ operator. So the instruction I can use is here, I should use @ here in move. So move R0 hash 0. Hash 0 is nothing but the immediate addressing mode that we'll discuss just now after this slide. So next thing is going to be the immediate addressing mode. This immediate addressing mode is represented by the letter hash. So wherever you have a hash, it means that it is immediate address. That means we are not using any memory location to get the data. Directly data called 12 is simply moved into the address A. In the direct addressing mode, the address where from we're going to get the data is directly mentioned. Where in the case of indirect addressing mode, it is normally mentioned by using the register. In immediate addressing mode, directly we are going to access data. That means this 12 is nothing but the directly data. This data is simply moved into the A with this because of this hash symbol. So we represent immediate addressing mode by using the hash symbol. It tells that directly data is moving into the accumulator. Now one exception here we are going to have is if the register is going to be of 16-bit, say DPTR is 16-bit, so compulsory the data that you are going to put into DPTR should be of 16-bit. Then only this instruction is going to get executed. Otherwise, it's going to give us an error. Accumulator is an 8-bit, so therefore you are simply moving only 8-bit data into the accumulator, it is going to get accepted. But here in DPTR, it is not going to get accepted because the DPTR is going to be a 16-bit register, contains lower order data and higher order data of the DPTR register. So this is what the one of the exception or the constraint which you're going to have in the immediate addressing mode type of the instructions. So these are the addressing modes using which we normally going to transfer our data, okay, into the microcontroller, right? So with this we'll stop the our discussion today in today's session, and next session will continue with other addressing modes such as relative, absolute, long and index type of addressing modes. So after this we'll try to look into some of the problems which are related to the addressing modes, and some of the instruction sets also we'll see. Before we do programming, we'll see some of the instruction sets. There are so many types of instructions called logical instructions, arithmetic instructions. Okay, so all these are the instructions which memory transfer instructions, all these are instructions which we're going to have. So we'll try to discuss about the instructions which normally perform various types of operations. Then we'll do some little bit of programming on the 8051 microcontroller. Thank you very much for the today's session.